Hello and welcome to Horror Rewind. This is Kelly Florence, and today I have two special co-hosts. Ladies, will you introduce yourselves?
I'm Chelsea. I am friends of Beth, who she will introduce herself here shortly. I've loved scary movies since I could remember, so I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you.
I'm Beth. I am Kelly's sister-in-law. This is my second episode with Kelly.
Old school. You're just like, this is old hat for you, Beth.
Just an old hat, you know.
Well, welcome, ladies. I am thrilled to be talking to you today. Now, I want to know the history of your friendship. How did you two get to know each other?
Go for it,
when I know that we just went through this at Brittany's wedding, I'm trying to think, was it like sixth grade?
Yeah, it was
middle school-ish we met.
Yeah.
So gosh, I don't even want to do the math on how long ago that was, but quite a while ago. So been holding strong since
late 90s.
Yeah. Ugh.
And now, did you two watch horror movies together?
I don't
think we've watched many together.
No. But I think because we haven't really lived in the same area for terribly long, kind of in our older-ish years, I don't know if we have really. We talk about them all the time.
Well, part of it is our other friend, it's like a group of three of us, and our other friend Brittany hates horror movies. So,
shout out to Brittany.
Shout out to Brittany. And we're often all hanging out as three, so she's kind of a horror movie, block.
Aw.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, Brittany. She's missing out.
Yeah,
she is, and I don't think she'll budge either. So
no, she's firm in her stance.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah.
So today we are talking about the movie The Strangers from 2008. Now, before I get into all of the facts about the movie, when did each of you see this movie? Beth, we'll start with you.
I could probably pull up actually the date if I really wanted to, but it was Thursday. It was Thanksgiving in 2015. I went up to New York City to hang out with some friends of mine in Brooklyn, and I retreated to a bedroom in my friend's apartment and holed up and watched this movie by myself while everyone else was, I don't know, cooking, and I was not helping. And I heard it was a really good movie, and I watched it. And that's how I remember experiencing it first time.
I'm trying to think when
It was 2015. Sorry, I forgot. 2015.
Yeah, I don't know when I first watched it. I definitely didn't watch it when it first came out. I don't think I really knew about it for a while. Otherwise, I feel like I would have watched it right away because this kind of movie is right up my scary movie alley. So I don't really know exactly, but I own it and I've seen it probably 50 times. So
wow. So this, like I said, this movie came out in 2008. It is 48% on Rotten Tomatoes. It had a budget of $9 million. It made $82 million at the box office. It was written and directed by Brian Bertino, and it is based on the Ketty Cabin murders and also the Manson and Tate murders. That Ketty Cabin murders, it was actually this quadruple homicide that is still unsolved until this day that happened in 1981, and I was reading up on it, you guys. It's so icky, and it's basically this violence, and it makes no sense, and there's no motive, and that's what is the scariest thing to me is these random killings.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
People there's just some screw loose up there, and they're like, oh, it's just rainy Sunday, let's go stalk someone. I don't get it.
So now you should
something that's totally possible,
Exactly.
Yeah, there's nothing about this movie that's really a stretch, Yeah.
Ugh.
And you shared your stories about when you saw this. I did not see this until a couple weeks ago, and I don't know what it was. I just never saw it, and the two of you recommended it, so I'm glad I watched it. It starts off with the quotation on the screen saying "inspired by true events," and by those ones I just mentioned. That just sets it up for this eerie feeling, and it is so scary because any of us could be in this situation.
Absolutely.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really like creates this. It kind of sets the tone, you know, like that voice, that like really deep voice that kind of introduces it and says
Very
like,
creepy.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Wild.
Now, something that I appreciated, Meg and I always talk about this on the podcast. We like that, if they establish real characters, real people, and we care about the characters. And so it's an interesting place for them to be, for this couple to be relationship-wise at the start of this movie, because they're apparently not going to stay together, and he had this romantic evening planned, and it's a complicated start, which is much more interesting than, oh, guess what? We're teenagers and we're going to go sleep in this cabin, or we have a perfect marriage,
Yeah. Yeah. The one thing that kind of really bothered me about their whole relationship, like, he's acting like it's, like, over, but I think she was just like, I'm not ready. So I think that he was being a little, what's the right word? I don't want to say childish, but
dramatic, maybe?
Yeah. It's like, she never said it was over. Like, and he's like stomping around and like slamming things, and I just thought that was kind of childish.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and you can feel that they really care about each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like their intimacy is like very sweet, very tender, like very palpable. So it's like, is it over? Probably not. She's just not ready,
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And now, something else interesting that they set up is that the first time a stranger comes to the door, it's a woman, and typically women are not seen as a threat. And so it's 4 a.m.
Yeah.
She comes to the door. She asks for someone who's not there. And now I was reading this interview with the writer. He said that this actually happened to him when he was a kid, that somebody came to his door and knocked and asked for somebody who didn't exist. And they went to every house on the block, and they were just doing that to see if anybody was home. And if people weren't home, then they would rob the house. So that's creepy AF.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, and she said it so, like, weirdly, it was just camera there. Like, why do you have to say it like that?
Yeah, between, like, the way she said it and the fact that it's 4 a.m., like,
you couldn't see her face.
Yeah, no, hard pass.
Yeah, well, yeah, and then he was, like, gonna leave her to go get cigarettes. Like, if that was me, you're not leaving me. I've seen too many scary movies that start this way. Yep. No thanks.
Nope.
I don't need my cigarettes that bad.
No.
Exactly. Like, there's no scenario where anyone has to leave at this time. Like, the sun will rise eventually. Let's wait until then,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the guy, the next creepy thing, the guy with the bag over his head just appears, and it is so shocking, but it's not a jump scare. He's just there all of a sudden.
No! That is the thing about this movie, is that there's so many unanticipated moments where someone's just in the background, and there's no build-up, and there's no, like, music or sound effects to emphasize that they're there. They're just there, and it's terrifying.
I feel like I didn't notice him right away the first time I watched it. I feel like I remember that happening, and then after she had, like, walked over the sink, then I saw him, and like, oh God, how long has he been there for? I don't think I saw you right away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's terrifying.
Yeah, I appreciate those kinds of scares more than a typical jump scare or like a music to emphasize something. Like, all of a sudden he just appears, and like, it's up to us to we jump because it's our own natural reaction, not that someone is forcing us to feel that way.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. Now, I can't believe that, like, this whole premise is so subtle. It's just like completely believable. And Liv Tyler, she was out of, I was reading, she was out of, retired, and she came out of retirement for this movie because she read the script and said, okay, this is actually building character and anticipation in a way that, you know, I haven't seen in a while. And so, do you guys remember Liv Tyler from like Armageddon, or what is your knowledge of her?
Oh. Yeah, that's the one that. Yeah, that's the one that. Oh yeah, Empire
Records.
Yes, yeah, that one probably stands out the most for me. That and yeah,
Armageddon.
Yeah, and Armageddon.
Yeah.
I thought she was a great casting choice for this, though, because she's real, she's subtle, and also I read that she did not want to see any of the masks ahead of time, and she wanted to be scared realistically.
Oh.
And so the first time the girl in the mask appeared to her, I think it must have been the barn or something, she actually, that's all real reaction, and she ended up kicking her in the face. And like she apologized, but she literally had not seen her before, and she was freaked out.
Oh wow.
That's crazy.
But like,
I think the first time she saw her was when she looked behind the window curtains.
Okay.
Wasn't that? I think that was she saw one of the girls.
Yeah.
That's the other thing.
At first I was like, why are you gonna look? You know, but then I thought about it, I'm like, well, I would kind of want to see what I have to work with, you know, what I'm working with here. They already know I'm inside.
Yeah.
So
I just have
scary.
on my notes here that Liv Tyler is so dreamy and so gorgeous, and she's
like a natural pretty.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
she's gorgeous. Like in this movie, in all movies, she's been like she is breathtaking.
It's true.
Even when she's screaming bloody murder.
Yes. She's just like gorgeous puffy lips, this beautiful hair. Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, that's like maybe not super relevant to the actual plot of the movie, but
no, but it's relevant to life.
Yeah, to life. Yes.
Now the husband comes back. Like nothing major has happened yet, but they find this gun. They think that they're going to protect themselves, but he ends up killing his friend who's there to pick him up because, you know, he's like, come get me. She doesn't want to be with me anymore or whatever. And like, can you imagine?
Oh,
no.
Yeah, so my thing with that whole scene was that I feel like they would have reacted more to the fact that he killed his best friend. I mean, he straight up shot his best friend in the head.
Yeah.
And I guess they're just processing everything that's happening.
Yeah, they're probably in like a major state of shock and like survival.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's also funny because I know that actor from It's Always Sunny. He plays
of course.
Reynolds. Or is that it? Dennis Reynolds? Yeah. I think that's his name in It's Always Sunny. But yeah. That was so tragic.
And I knew it too. As soon as he pulled up, I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew it was going to happen. I was like, no, but do it, but no.
Yeah. Too good to be true.
Yeah.
The other thing I read about the filming of this movie is that they purposely shot it chronologically because Liv Tyler and the writer talked about it and said it was such a journey emotionally that, she wanted to go through it and not see the people until she was actually going to be scared for the first time. And I think that's pretty cool because they don't always do that with movies or TV shows.
Well, it brings a sense of realism to it, you know, like, yeah, you can act being scared, but you can't act it super realistic until, unless it actually happens to you. So I think that was a really good touch to this movie. And I didn't know that until just now.
Yeah.
That's that's really cool.
Now, I'm going to refer to him by his character name, James. It's her boyfriend. He goes out to the barn to try to use the radio. Now, if you were in this situation, would you separate? Would you stay together?
No.
Like, what would you do?
Not separate. Especially without a gun. If you want to leave me the gun, fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I would separate.
Nope, not if there's only the one gun. No thanks.
I know. No, I don't think I would separate either. Like, I mean, obviously, I've seen enough horror movies to know that is not a good recipe for anything to turn out well. But
absolutely.
This guy with the bag over his head, did you notice, like, he's got this wheezing breath? Like, he's breathing, and it's a wheeze, and it's so disturbing.
Oh, I didn't pick that up.
I really wanted to see what they, like, actually look like.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess
Kind of bothered me.
See, do you?
Now,
I know that they take their masks off, but
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't remember that you ever really see their faces.
you don't. And so the director said in test audiences, the original edit of the film, they showed the faces, and it didn't test well. People were, like, kind of let down by just seeing what these actors looked like, and they said it ended up testing better, and it was scarier if you never see their faces.
Okay.
So
Yeah. Well, then it kind of makes your imagination go a little bit then.
exactly.
You know?
Yeah, I can see that.
Like, are they horribly disfigured? Are they regular people? Either way, it's terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
This scene of Liv Tyler hiding in the pantry or closet.
Oh.
God.
I hate that
So
scene.
good.
I don't like it. The last place I would go is hide in a closet, because guess where the first place your killer's going to look? In a closet.
Yes, or under the
I
bed.
actually have that on my notes.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, she tried to go under the bed too, and she didn't fit earlier in the movie.
yeah, that's a bummer.
It reminds me of the original Halloween, because Laurie
Oh,
Strode
sure.
is
Oh.
hiding in the closet, and
Yes,
Michael Myers gets in there. I mean, of course. You can't
Yep.
hide in a closet,
Yep.
especially with those slat doors.
Yeah, but
and
then it's like I don't know where else you would go. To
True.
be honest.
and the slats looked really wide. Like when she was looking out at him because he was like sitting down or whatever.
Yes.
They looked super wide. I was like, wow, he's got to be able to see her.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then when she
Well, and-
first went in there, she made kind of a ruckus too,
Yeah.
so that didn't help.
Mm-hmm.
Now, all I could feel by this point is that it was going to be impossible to escape, and also I knew that it was based on a true story. I felt like, okay, there is no way they're going to escape. Did you feel like that sense of dread when you saw this movie for the first time?
Yeah, I did. At the end when so they get stabbed, in the chairs, whatever, and they're all kind of tied up, and then it kind of cuts away, and then it goes back to them, and they're on the floor. So I'm wondering, did they untie them? Did they put them on the floor? I'm kind of wondering what the purpose of that was, or how they got on the floor.
And that whole scene of Liv Tyler being dragged down the hallway in a semi-conscious state, it just like I could hardly watch. Like I had to watch through my fingers, basically.
Yep, and then you could almost like hear her fingernails kind of scratching on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that part was very creepy.
And speaking of the stabbing scene too, they chose to juxtapose the stabbing with like these scenes of nature and showing no one around, and it was just like it made it even more disturbing because you realize like there's no one around to help.
No,
And also, like, everything is so calm and peaceful outside, and there's this horrifying scene, playing out.
Right, yeah. And it, right before they do the stabbing stuff, they kind of, James and Kristen kind of have this little moment. And at first I was like, oh my God, like that's so sad. And then I was like, don't the killers have any sort of remorse right now, watching them kind of had this little moment. And then I was, then I forgot that they were just cold-hearted killers, and they just they don't care. They don't care.
Yeah.
Speaking of this trio of killers, it probably won't be this Halloween because of the whole, COVID-19 pandemic, but sometime the three of us need to dress up as this trio, because wouldn't that be scary AF?
Yes.
It would.
Yes. It'd be so easy too. We just have to make the, we can wear regular clothes and just make the masks.
Exactly. It would be a really scary trio Halloween costume.
It would. I would love that, actually.
Love that.
Now, what other notes do you have, or did you take any notes about this movie?
Oh, I have lots of notes.
Beth, get to it.
Okay. So Scott Speedman is so hot.
Agreed.
Ah,
Sorry, that's also like not, part of the plot or doesn't.
but it's
blend
part of
anything.
life.
Oh, he's so dreamy. I love their very sweet chemistry. He's so hot. So that's one note I have. There were these random slow-mo shots that I thought were kind of weird and out of place.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
super subtle, and like not very frequent. But there were a couple of shots that were like unnecessarily in slow motion, and I was like, what is that really doing for anything?
Do you remember what
seeing those.
what in particular? Because I'm not recalling.
Oh, I can't remember. There was like a slow motion shot of Liv Tyler. Of her.
There was one of her looking at the door.
Yes, exactly.
It was only like a few seconds, and I thought, I don't know if maybe they're trying to drag out that little clip, or if they did that on purpose, because it wasn't super noticeable.
Yeah.
But I noticed little things like that.
Yeah.
I think that's the only reason why I noticed it. And there was another one, but I can't. It's earlier in the movie.
Yeah, there was maybe 2 or 3, and I was like, I don't really know.
Yeah, I thought those were kind of weird too.
Yeah, maybe it was like a moment where, because they shot in sequence or whatever, like they realized they couldn't go back and do it, in post, and so they did it in editing, and it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. No, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't think that worked at all.
Yeah. I also, so I know this is maybe a cheap shot that a lot of horror films include to create, fear, suspense, or whatever. But I am such a sucker for a record player playing old music.
Yes.
That just gets me immediately. Like, oh my gosh, it is a record player playing an old song from the 1960s, and I'm immediately terrified. And this movie does that a couple of times.
Yeah, I think they have very good song choices. Although, so being a country music fan, and more so the older country music, the classics. I'll never listen to Mama Tried by Merle Haggard the same ever again because of this movie.
Oh, is that one of the songs?
Yeah, that's the one that plays when they shoot his friend in the face.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I know. So every time I hear it, I'm like, God dang it. And now I'm seeing this part of the movie.
Yeah. Oh, no.
But I do agree, the song choices were great.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I don't know that I've necessarily had a song ruined for me because of a movie like that, but I can think of song choices that made a scene and I will never listen to the song in the same way again. What I'm thinking of is the X-Files episode Home, and they play this song called Twilight Time, and they show this trio of brothers beating people to death, and I'm just like, nope, never again. I couldn't. And it's such a tranquil song, but what they're showing when they play the song, it's not okay. So yeah, it's interesting how they use music to evoke emotion in a way that is unexpected.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Or from the movie Us, I got 5 on it.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Music.
I thought at the end when I think they just had gotten her out of that closet, one of the killer gals said, "You're gonna die," and she said it almost like she was laughing. Do you guys remember? That stuck out so much for me.
Oh yeah.
She said, and she was almost laughing about it. Thought that was super creepy.
That's when she's kind of grabbing for the knife.
Yeah. Yep.
On the table.
Yeah. Yep.
That's right.
That was just very, yeah, the way that she was just kind of laughing a little bit was terrifying.
Yeah, when there's no actual motivation except that you're a weirdo psychopath, like, that's scarier to me than, you know, any sort of creature that you could create, you know?
Absolutely. And then the part at the very end where she's kind of dragging herself across the floor to get the ringing phone, and that whole scene is just terrifying too. That how the camera's kind of like on the ground, and she's literally crawling to the camera, and then when the killer comes and grabs the phone, and he doesn't like do like a double tap on her, like he must be very, very convinced that she's gonna die. But then then it ends, and the boys come, and then it's like, does she really die? Because she grabs at the little boy, and then that's it.
And then that's it.
And then that's it. And I know there is a second one, but the second one isn't related to this first one.
Yeah, nothing to do with it.
So, little side note here: have you seen the first one, Strangers Pray at Night, and is it worth watching?
The second one?
Yeah.
I've seen it. I don't think it's worth watching,
Okay.
but that's just kind of my opinion.
Beth, have you seen it?
Yeah, that's the one that has the woman from Mad Men, the redhead gal.
January Jones.
No, she's the redhead from Mad Men with the larger.
Oh, Christina Hendricks.
Yes, I think she's the mom in it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's follows the same formula.
It's an okay movie, but after watching the first one, there's really no. I don't think there's much comparison. But
yeah, agreed. I remember. So I watched it probably a month and a half ago, and then I rewatched it a couple of days ago. But when I watched it like a month and a half ago with my husband, we're sitting there and we're trying to think, okay, like what is the theme or message or symbolism in this movie? Because we've seen so many horror movies in the last like year or two that have such strong messages, like Us or Get Out or movies that like send a very strong message, and I don't really think that that's like the point of this movie.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think this is a movie about like murders for like and some people who are bored.
Yeah, and like that's it.
And that's it.
Yeah,
yeah. I think that's what the movie is all about. I don't think there's a bigger message to glean from it. I don't think there's symbolism. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
When I was reading what some critics were saying, like some critics were saying, "Oh, it's the pastoral, country setting and." Showing how violence can happen anywhere, not just in the big city. And maybe that's true. But I know what the director said is that, and writer, he said, look, there's nothing more terrifying than random violence. It's like violence or murder without motivation is the scariest thing in the world. And that's what he said the point was. And I think we got that,
Yeah, well, it just proves that you're just... you're a little crazy.
Yeah.
There's nothing behind, your motivation to killing these people. You're just kind of nuts.
Yeah. I guess that's it.
What else do either of you want to say about The Strangers?
I liked at the end where they actually took the masks off, because that if you show your face to these people, now you have to kill them now, otherwise they're going to do a sketch and, you're going to get caught. So as soon as they took the masks off, I'm like, all right, it's over for them.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And also like to see probably their humanity and to see that they were probably just regular people under there. makes it even more terrifying. And like, wait a minute, this person are killing me, like, and there's no reason for it. Like, that is absurd and horrific.
Well, and then at the end, they run into those boys, and they give them some religious piece,
right?
And that kind of makes you kind of really confused. Are they just putting up a front and they're trying to make, or are they trying to make themselves feel better that this was a religious thing, or that part was that kind of took me by surprise a little bit too.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you assume, these kids are going to die, but nope.
And the way that the kids looked at them makes you kind of wonder if they were a little, I don't want to say weird looking, but, a little different looking, or if maybe they just kind of, looked like they had just killed someone or something. But the boys did look at them a little oddly.
Right.
Yeah, the boys, they were sketched out.
They were.
Yeah. I know my dad, who has been on this podcast, tries to really look, like, dig and, find meaning in things. And I'm sure he would say, oh, those boys, those are, strong religious undertones of the movie. And spreading, their religion or something, something like that. I'm not sure it goes that deep.
Right.
But I don't know, why did they choose to have the, two people at the end of the movie who found these bodies? Why did they, why did they choose to have Jehovah's Witnesses? Maybe, I don't know, maybe it was something more, but I doubt it.
And then I wonder if when the boys ended up finding them in the house, if they, at some point thought, oh, maybe it was those creepy people that we had just seen coming from that way, that gave us this weird religious stuff that was kind of odd. I wonder if not that we'll know, but I wonder if this were in real life, if those boys would have thought about that at all.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's true. Well, are we ready to rank, or do you have anything else to say?
I think I got everything on my list here.
What about you, Kel?
No, I'm ready to rank. I think we should rank this movie. Let's rank it on a scale of 0 to 10. 0 being you hated it, 10 being you think it's a perfect movie, but we have to pick a scale. And so, Chelsea, this is your first Horror Rewind. You have to pick the scale for us.
Yeah. When I thought about this, because I knew that there is this scale and you have to pick something. And I forgot to mention this earlier, but I thought it was kind of funny, coming from a hunting background, that when he was getting the shotgun, he said that he was trying to find bullets.
Oh, but they would be shells.
But they would be shells, yes. So I'm going to say let's do, we can either do bullets or shells. I think we'll do bullets because that's
what
funnier.
He said, yeah. Okay, so how many bullets, Chelsea, do you give The Strangers?
I give it an 8. I don't think it was perfect. If you know me, you know that I'm a realist when it comes to scary movies. I tell Beth all the time, she gets bad. I tell her all the time that, I thought it was scary until I see the monster. So I do really like this movie because this is something that can absolutely happen. So I give it an 8. Okay,
and Beth, how many bullets do you give The Strangers?
I'm going 9 bullets on this one.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, I'm also giving it an 8. I think that it was so scary. It always, I will say that real monsters are the people who walk among us, and that is scarier to me than any, CGI creature. I think, again, maybe it's not perfect, but there were no typical jump scares, and I appreciated that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I love it.
So thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today, both of you. And I can't wait to talk to you about more horror movies. So until next time, we'll see you in the horror section.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.